Give me 1 minute. I can fix that. The man said. The billionaire laughed, then watched in silence. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We have noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It is quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let us keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us get back to the story. Hey, garbage, you think those hands ever touched Italian metal? The voice cracked through the California heat like a whip. The marble steps of elite motors gleamed under the afternoon sun, reflecting the white suits, mirrored sunglasses, and quiet arrogance of Beverly Hills. Every head turned toward the man, shouting. Bradley Stone, the dealership's CEO, stood beside a smoking Lamborghini Huracan, his anger sharp enough to cut through the smell of burnt oil. Behind him, a crowd of clients gathered: tech investors, realtors, men who wore their wealth like armor. Their laughter came easily. By the dumpster near the alley, a black man in worn jeans and a faded work shirt stood still. His name was Malik Brooks. The wind tugged at his sleeves as he looked toward the car. His eyes carried the calm of someone who had seen too much to be startled by insults. Bradley smirked, waving his gold watch toward the car like a weapon. This is what happens when you let trash hang around the property. They start thinking they are mechanics. Laughter rippled across the parking lot. Phones came out. A woman whispered, "Record this." Someone else said, "This is going viral." Malik took a slow step forward. No defiance, no fear. Just motion measured and deliberate. His shadow stretched over the asphalt. The Lamborghini coughed another puff of smoke. He spoke softly, his voice almost swallowed by the noise. "Give me 1 minute. I can fix that." For a heartbeat, the world stopped. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. The laughter faded into an uneasy silence. A man holding a latte lowered his cup. Somewhere, a car horn blared far off on Wilshire Boulevard. Bradley blinked, as if unsure he had heard correctly. "What did you just say?" Malik's eyes never left the smoking engine. 1 minute, he repeated. "That is all it takes." The crowd exchanged glances, amusement sliding into disbelief. Bradley looked around, feeding on their attention like an actor in a cruel play. 1 minute? You hear that, folks? Our local maintenance expert thinks he can fix a $250,000 car faster than I can blink. The laughter returned, louder, but this time edged with curiosity. Malik stood his ground. He did not raise his voice. He did not move. He simply waited for the noise to die on its own. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we are glad you are here. Now, back to Malik. Bradley leaned closer, the heat from the car wrapping around them both. "You have 60 seconds, huh? Tell you what touched that car and you will be arrested for vandalism." Malik looked up, calm as still water. "Then you will be arresting the only person here who knows how to save it." For a moment, the sound of engines from the distant highway filled the air, humming like a prelude to something larger. The crowd felt it, the strange tension before a storm. Bradley Stone laughed, but his voice cracked. "Fix it? You? This should be good." The timer had not started yet, but everyone watching already knew. Something was about to change. The air in the parking lot turned heavy, like the moment before thunder. Malik Brooks did not move. He stood with his hands at his sides, the sunlight tracing the lines of his face. The heat shimmered above the asphalt, carrying the smell of burnt oil and exhaust. Every camera phone pointed at him now, hungry for another moment of humiliation. Bradley Stone smirked, his voice dripping with false amusement. "What are you waiting for, hero? You want applause before you fail?" His laughter echoed against the glass walls of elite motors, bouncing back like a cruel soundtrack. Malik looked past him toward the Lamborghini, its hood still slightly smoking, the black paint catching streaks of gold light. "I do not need applause," he said quietly. "Just 1 minute and a fair chance." A ripple moved through the crowd. Some of them laughed again, but softer this time. Others just watched. There was something in his tone that did not belong to a man beaten down by the world. It was calm. It was certainty. A valet whispered, "He does not look scared." His friend replied, "He should be. Stone will call security." Bradley raised his voice again. "You have 1 minute to step away, or you will be removed from my property." Malik turned to face him fully for the first time. The sunlight caught the faint sheen of grease on his hands, scars that told their own history. He spoke with no rush, each word landing heavy in the silence. "Do you own the air, Mr. Stone? Because that is the only thing I am standing on." The crowd stirred. A few people lowered their phones. Even the billionaire client, Ethan Vale, folded his arms, curiosity replacing his earlier disdain. "Let him talk," Ethan said. "I want to see what confidence sounds like when it costs nothing." "Everett." Bradley forced a smile, but his jaw tightened. He hated losing control of the narrative. "Confidence is cheap," he said. "Results are not." Malik nodded once, eyes still calm. "Then you will see the difference soon enough." Near the edge of the lot, a young technician named Naomi Reed stood frozen. She had been adjusting the microphone setup for the event before everything stopped. Now her heart pounded. She recognized the man. 3 months earlier, she had seen his name printed on the blueprint of the diagnostic scanner they used in the service bay. She whispered under her breath, "That is the engineer." Her supervisor shot her a glare. "Keep your mouth shut. This is not your business." But Naomi's eyes stayed locked on Malik. Something about him felt grounded, like a truth the rest of them had forgotten. Malik stepped closer to the car. The crowd parted instinctively, unsure whether to laugh or film. The faint hum of the city returned, the noise of traffic blending with the sound of the wind sliding over glass. He crouched near the front bumper, not touching anything yet, just listening. Bradley gestured wildly. "Security, are you just going to let this man crawl around my client's vehicle?" The guard hesitated. The entire scene felt like a test of something larger than dealership protocol. Malik rose slowly, meeting Ethan Vale's eyes across the hood. "Engines speak," he said almost to himself. "You just have to know how to listen." Ethan's brow furrowed. He had spent millions on machines, but no one had ever described them that way. Bradley rolled his eyes. "What are you, some kind of philosopher mechanic?" Malik did not answer. The silence around him became its own kind of authority. He brushed dust from his sleeve and said softly, "I built systems you use every day. You just never looked at the name under the patent." "Ugh." The words hung in the air like smoke. The laughter stopped completely. Somewhere deep inside the showroom, the faint hum of another car engine carried out through the open doors. It sounded steady, alive. And in that quiet, everyone began to feel it, the uncomfortable truth that maybe the man they mocked was the only one in control of what came next. The heat of the afternoon pressed against the glass showroom like a living thing. Inside, sales associates whispered to each other behind the safety of designer counters. Outside, the scene had turned into a performance that no one could look away from. The hum of air conditioning mixed with the faint vibration of an idling engine somewhere deep within the building. Bradley Stone's voice cut through the air again. "Enough of this circus. Someone remove him before he embarrasses us any further." His polished shoes clicked across the pavement as he approached Malik Brooks. The sound was sharp, impatient, full of ownership. Malik stood still. "You are already embarrassed," he said quietly. "You just do not know it yet." The words hit Bradley harder than a shove. He stopped mid-stride, trying to laugh it off, but his voice cracked under the weight of the crowd's growing silence. A client near the door whispered, "Did he just say that to Stone?" Another answered, "He did." From the corner, Naomi Reed took one small step forward. She could not stay quiet any longer. "Mr. Stone," she said carefully, "his name is on our diagnostic software. He used to be part of the design team before the company restructured." Bradley turned, fury flaring in his eyes. "That is impossible. This man is homeless." Naomi swallowed hard. So were a lot of people when the layoffs happened. Her voice trembled but held. "It does not mean they forgot how to think," the crowd murmured. For the first time, sympathy shifted. The laughter that had carried the cruelty began to fade. Ethan Vale, the billionaire client, studied Malik more closely now. His instincts, sharpened by years of negotiations, sensed truth behind the calm posture and weathered hands. Bradley forced a grin for the cameras still recording. "Fine," he said. "If this man is who you claim he is, let him prove it. But when he fails, you all saw me give him the chance." The words were a trap disguised as generosity. The crowd leaned in, waiting for Malik's reply. Malik nodded once. "I do not need your permission to prove what is already true." Bradley motioned to the security guard again, frustration spilling into his voice. "You have 10 seconds to step away." The guard hesitated. Something about Malik's stillness unsettled him. It was not defiance, it was command. Ethan Vale finally spoke, his tone quiet but firm. Let him try. I want to see what happens when the person with the least power is given the floor. Bradley hesitated. The power dynamics had shifted without warning. Cameras captured every expression, every heartbeat of pride on the edge of collapse. Malik moved toward the car once more. He stopped just short of touching the metal, eyes scanning the surface, tracing invisible lines only he could see. The wind picked up, carrying the faint scent of gasoline. Engines tell stories, Malik said softly. This one has been trying to speak for days. Ethan stepped closer. What do you hear? Malik looked up. Misalignment. Pressure out of rhythm. Someone installed the wrong filter. The timing chain is fighting against itself. The master technician from the showroom snorted. That is nonsense. The diagnostics showed nothing of the sort. Malik's voice remained even. Because machines do not lie, but the readings you trust are only as honest as the people who programmed them. A few gasps rippled through the audience. Ethan's face changed, interest turning into respect. That is a bold claim. Malik met his gaze. Truth is not bold. It is just ignored until it is useful. Bradley's patience snapped. Enough with the speeches. You have 60 seconds. Touch the car or leave. Malik looked at the Lamborghini, the smoke rising slower now in the afternoon light. Then I will touch it, he said. And the moment I do, everything you believe about worth will change. The crowd closed in. Phones lifted higher. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed down the boulevard, the sound fading just as Malik reached for the hood. The world seemed to hold its breath again. The hood lifted with a low metallic sigh. A wave of heat rolled out, mixing with the scent of oil and smoke. Malik Brooks leaned over the open engine bay, his movements precise and deliberate. The crowd drew closer, phones held high, screens glowing like fireflies against the afternoon glare. For a long moment, no one spoke. The sound of traffic from Wilshire Boulevard faded, leaving only the steady hum of tension. Malik reached into his worn canvas bag and pulled out a small flashlight. Its beam cut through the haze, revealing details the eye could not catch. Bradley Stone folded his arms, forcing a laugh that sounded more like a cough. What is this? Street theater? You expect to fix an Italian supercar with that flashlight and attitude? Malik did not respond. His hands moved over the engine, not touching anything yet, just reading the signs written in carbon and heat. His fingers hovered near the timing cover, tracing the rhythm of metal with the instinct of someone who knew the language of machines. Inside the showroom, employees pressed against the glass. They watched the man who had once been invisible take command of the moment. Naomi Reed stood near the entrance, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel it, the quiet shift that happens when truth begins to surface. Mr. Stone, she said, her voice steady, you should let him finish. Bradley turned sharply. You again? You are one warning away from losing your job. Naomi did not step back. Maybe, but I will not lose my self-respect. A murmur moved through the crowd. Ethan Vale's lips twitched with the faintest smile. He admired courage, even when it came from the lowest rank in the room. I like her, he said quietly to no one in particular. Malik looked up from the engine. She is right. I am almost done reading what this car has been trying to say. He knelt lower, listening, his ear near the valve cover. Cylinder 7, he murmured almost to himself. That is where the heartbeat stumbles. The master technician snorted again. You cannot diagnose a timing issue by listening. That is not how it works. Malik raised his head slowly. You cannot hear it because you have stopped listening. That is the real failure. The silence that followed felt electric. Even the wind seemed to hesitate. Malik shined his light into the oil filler neck and nodded. Wrong filter. Bypass pressure too high. The chain jumped. Bradley frowned, confused and irritated. You are guessing. My certified mechanic ran diagnostics for an hour. Malik stood up straight, meeting his gaze. And yet the car is still broken. Ethan Vale took a step closer, the curiosity in his face hardening into interest. You said bypass pressure. Explain. Malik turned toward him, calm as if he were giving a lecture. Every engine breathes through oil pressure. The wrong filter forces pressure where it does not belong. The tensioner fights against itself until the timing slips. It is not the engine that fails, Mr. Vale. It is the person who believed profit is more important than precision. The billionaire said nothing, but his expression changed. He understood what those words meant. Bradley looked at the crowd, trying to reclaim the moment. You think a story about oil pressure will save you? You are standing on private property. When this farce ends, so will your freedom. Naomi stepped forward again, holding her tablet. It is not a story. Look. She showed the service record on the screen. The filter used during the last maintenance was not the original specification. Ugh. The crowd reacted audibly. A few gasps. Someone whispered, "She has proof." Bradley's face went pale. Ethan turned sharply toward him. "Is that true?" Bradley stammered. "It was a substitution, temporary. A supply issue." Malik closed the hood gently. The metallic click echoed like punctuation. "Temporary greed has permanent costs." The parking lot went silent. The laughter was gone. For the first time that day, Bradley Stone realized he was no longer in control of the show he created. The stage now belonged to the man he called Garbage, and everyone knew it. The silence after Malik Brooks closed the hood was heavier than before. The air carried that stillness that comes only when pride meets the truth. Bradley Stone's face flushed red beneath the California Sunday. For years, no one had ever spoken to him that way, not an employee, not a client, and certainly not a man the world had labeled as worthless. He stepped forward, his voice rising. "You think this little performance makes you a hero? You are a fraud, pretending to know things you do not." Malik did not move. His eyes stayed calm, his breathing steady. "I do not need to pretend." The machine already confessed. Laughter flickered through the crowd again, nervous this time, unsure which side to join. The billionaire Ethan Vale stood quietly, hands clasped behind his back. His expression was unreadable. Bradley motioned to the security guard. "Remove him. I am done with this nonsense." The guard hesitated, his hand hovering near his radio. Malik's quiet confidence made the order feel wrong. He took one uncertain step forward, but Ethan Vale's voice stopped him cold. "Do not touch him." Everyone froze. Ethan's tone carried the kind of authority that comes from wealth and certainty. He walked closer to Malik, his shoes crunching softly on the gravel. "You said the bypass pressure was too high. Show me how you know." Malik nodded. "If I open the housing, you will see the imprint where the tensioner overextended. The pattern never lies." Bradley scoffed. "You expect us to believe a fairy tale about patterns and pressure? You do not even work here." Malik turned to him slowly. "That is true. I used to build engines for people who respected the craft. Now I fix what their arrogance destroys." The words hit deeper than anyone expected. Naomi Reed stood beside Ethan now, holding her tablet close to her chest. "He is right, Mr. Stone. The filter on record was not certified. The bypass rating is 15% higher than the manufacturer specification." Ethan's gaze sharpened. That could cause the exact failure he described. Bradley's confidence cracked. He could feel the ground shifting beneath him. "Enough," he shouted, his voice breaking. "Security!" When the guard reached for Malik's arm, the black man stepped back, his tone firm but controlled. "Do not touch me. I am not the problem you are trying to solve." That single sentence carried more force than any threat. The crowd fell silent again. The cameras caught every word, every tremor of power shifting hands. For a brief second, Malik's eyes unfocused, caught between the present and a memory. The smell of hot metal carried him backward in time. He was standing in another garage years earlier, his wife Lena sitting nearby, her scarf wrapped tight against her bald head. "You cannot fix everything, Malik," she had whispered. "Some things break so you can learn what should never have been built that way." He blinked the memory away, returning to the present. His voice softened but gained weight. "People break things when they stop caring who gets hurt. That is what happened here." Ethan's expression changed. The arrogance that usually lived in his posture gave way to respect. "You are telling me my car failed because someone cut corners to save a few dollars." Malik nodded. "That is exactly what I am telling you." Naomi looked around at the gathered crowd. "Then this is not about one car. It is about how people are treated when profit comes first." The billionaire exhaled slowly. "Then we fix it the right way, here and now." Bradley tried to interrupt, but Ethan raised a hand. "You have spoken enough." The words were quiet, but they carried finality. Malik looked down at the car, resting his hand lightly on the hood. The metal was still warm from the failure, humming faintly under his touch. "Every machine has a heartbeat," he said. "You just have to know when it is crying for help." The line hit the crowd like thunder disguised as poetry. They knew something irreversible had just begun. the moment when humiliation turned into revelation, and the balance of power could no longer be restored. The crowd's silence felt like gravity. No one moved. The moment balanced on a single breath. Malik Brooks stood beside the Lamborghini, his palm resting on the warm hood as if steadying something fragile. His voice had no anger in it, only certainty. Ethan Vale broke the stillness. "If you are right," he said, "show me." Malik nodded once. He reached into his canvas bag again and drew out a small roll of oiled cloth. Inside were tools older than most of the people watching. The steel edges glowed faintly in the afternoon light. Not fancy, not new, just trusted. Bradley Stone scoffed. "You cannot be serious. Those are antiques. What are you going to do, pray over the engine?" Malik's reply was calm. "I'm going to let the truth reveal itself." He unrolled the cloth across the fender with the precision of a surgeon preparing for an operation. Every movement was deliberate, measured, without hesitation. Naomi Reed stood nearby, eyes wide. "He knows exactly what he is doing," she whispered. Malik pulled out a small mirror attached to a thin rod and a slender screwdriver worn smooth by time. He looked toward Ethan. "May I?" Ethan nodded. "You may." Malik leaned over the engine and worked silently. The tools clicked softly against the metal, their rhythm steady and confident. The crowd leaned closer, drawn in by the calm authority that seemed to pulse from his hands. The smell of warm oil filled the air, rich and mechanical, the scent of work done honestly. Bradley crossed his arms, trying to keep control. "Do you even know what you are looking for?" Without looking up, Malik answered, "I am looking for what your team forgot to see." He adjusted the mirror to reflect a narrow opening beneath the oil filler cap. "Right there," he said. "The tensioner is extended past its limit. That means the chain skipped teeth. You can hear it if you listen to the uneven vibration." The master technician shook his head. "That is impossible. The diagnostic system would have detected that instantly." Malik looked up at him, his expression patient but unyielding. "Machines detect symptoms. People discover causes." The billionaire's eyes narrowed with intrigue. He could feel the weight of those words. "Then you are saying the system is wrong." "I am saying the system is blind when arrogance writes the code," Malik replied. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then I will trust what I see, not what I am told." Bradley's face tightened. "You have no idea what you are risking. If he damages that car, the liability is on you." Ethan's voice turned colder. "The only thing I am risking is staying blind another minute." Malik tightened one final screw, his hands moving with practiced precision. Then he stepped back, eyes fixed on the engine. "Now," he said softly, "it is ready." Bradley laughed. "Ready for what? To explode?" Malik ignored him. He turned the key that hung from the ignition slot. The sound that followed silenced even the skeptics. The engine turned once, twice, then roared to life with a clean, perfect rhythm. The vibration steadied, the smoke vanished. The billionaire's jaw dropped slightly. The noise was not chaos anymore, it was harmony. The car that had been declared dead was alive again. Malik looked at Bradley. "You said I could not touch this machine, but all it needed was someone who still listens." The crowd erupted in murmurs, disbelief mixing with awe. Naomi covered her mouth, eyes wet with pride. Even the security guard, still standing awkwardly near the door, whispered under his breath, "He really did it." Bradley's voice cracked. "That is impossible. He cheated somehow." Ethan Vale stepped forward, his tone final. "No, Mr. Stone, he delivered what your entire team could not, and he did it in 1 minute." Malik wiped his hands on a rag, folded his tools carefully, and placed them back into the cloth. "It was never about time," he said. "It was about care." The engine purred behind him, smooth and unwavering, a sound that now carried more meaning than applause ever could. In that moment, every person watching understood that they had just witnessed something rare. Quiet mastery turning humiliation into power. The roar of the Lamborghini faded into a smooth hum, the sound of precision returning to order. For several seconds, no one spoke. The crowd stared at the engine as if it were a living thing that had just taken its first breath. The air felt lighter, yet heavy with disbelief. Bradley Stone's smile faltered. His confidence cracked like glass under pressure. "You must have done something before," he said quickly. "There is no way that car could run that clean after what we saw." Malik Brooks folded the cloth around his tools and placed it gently back into his bag. "There is always a way," he said softly. You just have to stop treating people as replaceable as parts. Ethan Vale circled the car, listening to the engine's rhythm. "This is flawless," he said. "It sounds better than it did at delivery." He turned to Bradley, his voice calm but cold. "How did your team miss this?" Bradley tried to recover, the weight of the cameras pressing against his composure. "We did not miss it. It must have been a fluke." Malik's voice cut through, steady and deliberate. "A fluke does not fix a misaligned chain. It does not correct faulty pressure, and it does not rewrite a system built on ego." Ethan studied him, realization dawning. "You knew all along, did you not?" Malik met his gaze. "I built the system that measures torque and timing for this entire line of engines. I know how they fail. I know how they survive." A sharp gasp rippled through the onlookers. Naomi Reed's eyes widened. She had suspected it but never dared to say it aloud. Malik had not just fixed a car, he had repaired the truth. Bradley took a step back, his voice shaking. "You are lying. You cannot prove that." Malik reached into his bag once more and pulled out a folded document, the paper stained at the edges but perfectly legible. He handed it to Ethan Vale. "Patent registration," he said. "Torque synchronization module registered 6 years ago under my name." Ethan unfolded the paper. His eyes scanned the line of text, and there it was. Inventor, Malik Brooks. A wave of murmurs spread across the parking lot. Someone whispered, "He built it." Another said, "He designed the heartbeat of the car." Ethan looked up from the paper. His expression was no longer that of a spectator. It was of a man who had just seen something undeniable. "Mr. Brooks," he said slowly, "you built the very system this company depends on, and they did not even recognize you standing in front of them." Malik nodded once. "That is what happens when you only look at color and not contribution." The sentence landed like thunder. Cameras caught the moment perfectly, the billionaire holding the patent, the CEO frozen beside the car, and the quiet man who had just turned humiliation into proof. Bradley stumbled for words. This changes nothing. You still trespassed." Ethan's tone sharpened. "It changes everything. He owns part of what makes your brand credible. You mocked him in public, on camera, while using his creation." Naomi stepped closer. "That is not just disrespect. That is theft in daylight." Bradley looked around, desperate for support, but none came. The crowd that had once laughed now looked at him with contempt. Malik's voice lowered. "You called me a fraud, Mr. Stone, in front of your clients, your employees, and the world." He paused, his words measured. "But the only fraud here is standing beside a car he does not understand." Ethan folded the paper, tucking it carefully into his jacket pocket. "You are right," he said, "and I will make sure the right person gets credit from now on." Bradley tried to protest, but his voice came out thin, almost pleading. "You cannot take his word over mine. I run this company." Ethan's expression did not change. "You ran it," he corrected quietly. "Now it runs without you." The words struck with finality. Cameras flashed. The crowd erupted not with laughter this time, but applause. The rhythm of justice replaced the rhythm of mockery. Malik stood still, the hum of the engine steady behind him, his reflection glimmering on the polished paint. The moment was no longer about repair. It was revelation proof that truth, once revealed, cannot be silenced again. The applause rolled across the parking lot like thunder bouncing between glass walls. Phones stayed lifted, recording every heartbeat of a downfall that could not be undone. Bradley Stone's face drained of color. His empire, his image, was collapsing in real time. Ethan Vale held the patent paper in one hand and the car key in the other. The engine of the Lamborghini purred steadily behind him, the sound now a living witness. "You spent an hour mocking the man who built the system that keeps your brand alive," he said. "That is not just arrogance, that is self-destruction." Bradley tried to hold on to his composure. "You do not understand the politics of this industry," he said weakly. "I have responsibilities, shareholders." Ethan cut him off. "You have excuses. What you lack is accountability." The crowd murmured its approval. Naomi Reed stood a few feet behind Malik Brooks, her eyes shining with the certainty that justice was unfolding in front of her. She turned her tablet toward the cameras. "The internal maintenance log shows exactly when the cheaper filters were approved," she said. "Signed by Bradley Stone himself." Gasps spread through the audience. Someone in the back shouted, "That is fraud!" Another voice answered, "No, that is business when greed drives the wheel." Bradley's hands trembled. "You cannot use that. Those are company records." Ethan's tone stayed calm, measured, but final. You lost the right to secrecy when you lost your integrity. He looked toward the showroom doors, where employees had gathered in silence. Every one of you saw how he treated this man. That ends today. Malik stood quiet, letting the words travel on their own. He did not need to demand anything. Justice was already moving. Bradley turned to him, voice cracking. You think this makes you powerful? You are just a mechanic who got lucky. Malik's expression remained still, but his eyes carried weight. Luck is when preparation meets the moment arrogance creates. You gave me that moment. Ethan took a step closer to Bradley. Mr. Stone, your access to this property and company assets is suspended immediately. He turned to Naomi. Send the termination notice to legal and notify the board. The crowd reacted audibly. Phones caught every second the CEO stripped of authority. The man he mocked, standing calm beside the car that proved his brilliance. Bradley looked around, searching for allies, but no one met his eyes. Even the security guard avoided his gaze. His shoulders sagged. You cannot do this to me, he whispered. Ethan's voice softened, but it did not bend. You did this to yourself. Malik finally spoke again, each word deliberate. When you build without respect, collapse is only a matter of time. The crowd fell silent once more. It was not anger anymore, it was reflection. The lesson hung in the warm air, unmistakable. Ethan handed the car key to Malik. Start it one more time, he said. Let everyone hear what honesty sounds like. Malik turned the key. The engine ignited with a low, perfect hum, steady, pure, alive. The sound filled the lot, vibrating through glass and bone alike. It was not just mechanical, it was moral. Naomi whispered, Listen to that. Ethan nodded. That is the sound of precision. Malik looked at Bradley, whose eyes shimmered with disbelief. That is also the sound of truth, he said quietly. It keeps running long after lies break down. Cameras flashed again, capturing the image that would circle the world within hours, the disgraced CEO standing in silence beside the man he once called garbage, the man who had just repaired more than a car. The billionaire looked to Malik. You have something this industry lost a long time ago, he said. Integrity that does not need to announce itself. Malik gave a small nod. Integrity does not shout, he said. It endures. The crowd erupted into applause again. No one laughed this time. The sound was different, sincere, heavy, cleansing. As the sun began to dip, its reflection caught the hood of the car, turning the metal gold. The light fell across Malik's face, quiet and unwavering, as if the world had finally remembered how to see clearly again. The hum of the engine still lingered in the air, vibrating against the marble facade of Elite Motors. The sun hung low now, stretching long shadows across the parking lot. Bradley Stone stood in the middle of it all, silent, small, and surrounded by the echoes of his own downfall. Ethan Vale turned toward the crowd, his voice calm but commanding. Let us be clear, he said. This man, he pointed at Malik Brooks, did not just repair an engine. He exposed how greed corrodes systems from the inside. A ripple of agreement moved through the audience. Phones kept recording. Reporters had started to arrive, drawn by the storm of live streams and hashtags that had exploded across social media. Number 1 Minute Fix and number Listen to the Engine were already trending nationwide. Bradley's voice finally broke through the noise, trembling with anger. You are all fools, he said. Do you really think a man like him deserves to stand here lecturing professionals? He is nothing but a dropout who knows how to turn a wrench. Malik looked at him steadily. If knowing how to turn a wrench saves what arrogance destroys, then maybe that is the education the world needs most. Laughter, soft but approving, rippled through the crowd. It was not cruel this time, it was vindication. The truth had already chosen its side. Ethan held up the patent again. This document proves ownership of the technology your company built its diagnostics around. You used his invention without credit, and you profited from it. He paused, letting the words sink in. That will be corrected immediately. Bradley tried to reach for the paper, but Ethan stepped back. Do not, he said coldly. Every camera here saw you try to take what does not belong to you. Naomi Reed moved closer, holding her tablet. The legal team already received the files, she said. They are backing up every log, every signed approval with timestamps. There will be no way to bury this. Bradley turned pale. You cannot ruin me with a single video. Malik took one step forward. I did not ruin you, he said quietly. Your choices did. The sound of the engine purred behind them, steady and unbothered. It became the rhythm of the moment, a heartbeat underscoring justice in motion. Ethan's voice carried over the crowd. This ends now. Mr. Stone, you will surrender your credentials, your clearance, and your control of this dealership. The board will vote by morning, but you will not last the hour. Bradley's mouth opened, but no sound came. He glanced around the lot, faces he knew, employees he once commanded, all watching him with eyes that no longer obeyed. Malik spoke again, each word deliberate, each one sharp with truth. Power without respect is just noise, and today the world stopped listening to yours. The words landed with precision. Even the reporters stopped moving for a moment. The quiet stretched long enough to make the sound of Malik's breath audible. Ethan looked to Malik and then to the crowd. We need more people like him, he said. People who fix things because they care, not because it pays. Naomi smiled, tears in her eyes. He reminded all of us why we started doing this work in the first place. Bradley slumped slightly, the fight leaving his body. He whispered under his breath, "You think this is over?" Malik heard him and answered without looking. For you, yes. For the rest of us, it is just beginning. Ethan turned to Malik and extended his hand. Mr. Brooks, I would like to offer you a position on my Global Engineering Council. Not charity, recognition. Malik hesitated, then shook his hand. I do not want to be remembered for what I fixed, he said. I want to be remembered for what I refused to break. The crowd erupted in applause again, louder than before. Cameras captured the handshake, the sunset reflecting in the polished metal of the car. Bradley stood alone as security approached him quietly. The once proud CEO who had ruled through fear now looked like a man learning what humility felt like for the first time. As the golden light fell across the lot, Ethan whispered to Malik, "You did not just repair a machine. You restarted a conscience." Malik nodded slightly. Engines fail when parts stop working together. So do people. And with that, the sound of the running engine became more than a mechanical rhythm. It became a promise that dignity, once restored, would keep running long after the crowd went home. The night lights of Beverly Hills flickered on, painting the glass towers with streaks of gold and white. The crowd at Elite Motors had thinned, but the moment still pulsed through the air like an aftershock. Malik Brooks stood quietly beside the Lamborghini, the engine finally silent, the warmth of its metal fading into the cool evening air. Ethan Vale's security detail had cordoned off the entrance, but reporters still lingered at the edge of the lot, whispering updates into their microphones. Somewhere, a helicopter hovered overhead, its spotlight slicing through the dusk. What had begun as a moment of humiliation had become a broadcast of transformation. Ethan turned to Malik. You changed more than a car today, he said. You changed how people see power. Malik shook his head slowly. I did not change anything. I just reminded them what they forgot, that skill has no color and respect has no price. Ethan smiled slightly, the kind of smile that comes from understanding something for the first time. Still, the board will have questions tomorrow, he said, and they will want a new direction. Someone who can rebuild what Bradley destroyed. Before Malik could respond, the tall glass doors of the dealership opened. Out stepped a woman in a charcoal gray suit, her presence commanding without effort. It was Elaine Porter, chairwoman of the board. Every employee who remained fell silent. She did not need to raise her voice. She walked past the cameras, past Bradley Stone, who now stood with his shoulders slumped and his security badge clipped from his jacket, and stopped in front of Malik. I watched everything, she said. You reminded this company what integrity sounds like. Bradley took a hesitant step forward. Elaine, you cannot take his word over mine. I built this dealership from nothing. Elaine's gaze cut to him, cold and final. You built it on deception. That is not construction. It is corrosion. Her words hung in the air like verdicts. She turned back to Malik. Mr. Brooks, this company owes you more than an apology. It owes you restitution. Your technology will be credited and compensated properly. Malik inclined his head respectfully. I do not need wealth I did not earn, but I will take the truth being put back where it belongs. Ethan interjected softly. I have already instructed my legal division to audit every system that used his design. His ownership will be recognized globally. Elaine nodded. Good. And as for you, Mr. Brooks, I would like to offer you a permanent advisory role if you choose to accept. Malik paused, thoughtful. I appreciate it, but there are others who need this chance more than I do. The system does not change unless the doors stay open for people like Naomi. Naomi's eyes widened, disbelief washing over her face. You mean? Malik smiled faintly. You saw the truth when everyone else stayed silent. That is leadership. Elaine regarded Naomi for a moment, then nodded. Then you will lead this facility until further notice. Bradley's mouth fell open. You cannot be serious. She is an entry-level technician. Elaine turned toward him one last time. She is exactly what you forgot, to be honest. Security stepped forward. Bradley tried to speak, but the words never formed. His departure was quiet, stripped of spectacle. The cameras followed him only long enough to record his silence. Ethan looked at Malik again. You walked in here invisible. Now the world cannot stop looking at you. Malik exhaled slowly. Visibility means nothing if it is only for a moment. Let it mean something for the next generation. Elaine nodded approvingly. Then let us make sure it does. As the last flashes from the cameras dimmed, Malik turned toward the car one final time. Its paint reflected the city lights, no longer a symbol of luxury, but of truth restored. He placed his hand lightly on the hood and whispered, Machines do not lie, and neither does time. The sound of the wind swept through the lot, carrying away the last fragments of arrogance that had ruled the place. In that silence, justice no longer needed to be spoken. It was understood. 2 months later, the morning sun rose over a different part of the city. The polished glass towers of Beverly Hills were nowhere in sight. Instead, the camera of the world now turned toward a wide brick warehouse on the east side of Los Angeles, its walls freshly painted with white letters that read, Reclaim Motors, Second Chance Engineering. Inside, the hum of activity filled the space. Rows of workbenches lined the floor, covered with tools, engines, and notebooks. The smell of oil and metal mixed with fresh coffee. It was not a dealership. It was a school built on redemption. Malik Brooks walked between the rows, his steps calm and sure. Every student who worked here had a story. Some were formerly incarcerated. Some had been homeless. Some had been told they were not smart enough, not good enough, not the right kind of person to build anything of value. But in this place, all of that noise had been tuned out. Naomi Reed stood near the front, leading a small class of trainees through the process of diagnosing an engine. She wore her work jacket with quiet pride, the patch reading, Lead Instructor. Her voice carried confidence that had not been there before. The first thing you check, she said, is not the computer, it is the sound. The rhythm tells you what the machine is feeling. Malik listened from a distance, smiling slightly. He did not interrupt. He had built the space so others could lead, not so he could command. From the far door, Ethan Vale entered, accompanied by 2 assistants. He looked around, clearly impressed. You turned a warehouse into a heartbeat, he said. Malik nodded. It is not about rebuilding cars. It is about rebuilding confidence. These people were written off, but all they needed was someone to listen. Ethan's expression softened. Do you ever miss the corporate world? Malik shook his head. I never belonged there. I belong where the sound of a working engine means a person has their life back. They walked toward one of the bays where a young man worked nervously on an old pickup truck. Malik stopped beside him. What are you hearing? He asked. The young man hesitated. It sounds like it wants to start, but it is holding back. Malik nodded. Good. So what does that tell you? That maybe it just needs someone to give it a chance. Malik smiled. Exactly. Ethan watched the exchange, then turned to Malik. You know, you could have sold your patent and retired. You could have been a millionaire by now. Malik's answer came without hesitation. Money does not fix the kind of broken that pride creates. This, he said, gesturing around the workshop, this is what fixes it. Naomi walked over, wiping her hands on a rag. Mr. Brooks, the new class starts next week. We already have 20 applicants. Malik nodded. Make room for all of them. No one gets turned away. Ethan smiled faintly. That is going to cost you. Malik met his gaze, steady as ever. Then I will pay it. Some investments are not supposed to return money. They are supposed to return people. The sound of laughter echoed from the back of the room as an engine roared to life. The students clapped and cheered. Naomi raised her hands in triumph. Malik closed his eyes for a moment, listening. The rhythm of the machine blended with their joy. It was not just a sound, it was proof that change was working. Ethan said softly, You built a system that runs on dignity instead of greed. Malik replied, Engines need oil to run. People need hope. For a long moment, The two men stood in silence, watching as the students leaned over their engines, hands steady, eyes alive. Outside, the sign that read Reclaim Motors glowed in the morning sunday. The place that had once been a garage for broken machines had become a home for mending people. And as Malik walked back toward his office, the faint hum of engines followed him, a chorus of second chances singing in perfect harmony. The afternoon light slipped through the open bay doors of Reclaim Motors, laying long bands of gold across the concrete floor. The noise of work had quieted now. The last class had ended, and the students had left laughing, their hands still marked with oil, their faces glowing with pride. Only Malik Brooks remained, sitting at a worn wooden desk near the window. On the desk lay an old photo of him and his late wife, Lena. She was smiling, her scarf bright against the gray of the garage behind them. Malik touched the corner of the picture gently, the grease on his fingers leaving a soft print over her hand. "You were right," he whispered. "Some things break so we can build them stronger." He looked up as the sound of footsteps echoed across the shop. Naomi Reed appeared in the doorway, holding a small envelope. "Mr. Brooks," she said. "This came for you." Malik opened it carefully. Inside was a letter stamped with the seal of the Engineering Council. He read the first line aloud. "In recognition of innovation, resilience, and service to community, Malik Brooks is hereby awarded honorary distinction for advancement in mechanical ethics and engineering integrity." Naomi grinned. "That sounds like a pretty big deal." Malik smiled faintly. "Titles come and go. What matters is what you build when no one is watching." She nodded. "Still, you earned it." He looked around the workshop. Every tool was in its place, every engine covered neatly, the scent of honest work still hanging in the air. "No," he said softly. "We earned it." Outside, the low rumble of an old truck broke the quiet. A familiar voice called from the gate. "Mr. Brooks, you forgot to sign the final release form." It was one of the students, a young man named Trey, who had once been terrified of failure. Malik walked over, took the clipboard, and signed. "Keep it steady," he said. "You have a good ear. Never let fear make you doubt what you can hear." The young man nodded. "Thank you, sir." As the truck rolled away, Malik stepped outside and watched it turn down the street. The sky had deepened to amber. For the first time in years, the horizon felt wide open again. Ethan Vale's voice came from behind him. "You could have gone anywhere with your skills. You could have built an empire." Malik turned, smiling. "Empires fall. Standards last." Ethan nodded, understanding the depth of that truth. "You know, what happened that day at Elite Motors, it still plays online. Millions have seen it. You are an icon now." Malik looked out toward the setting Sunday. "If people see me, let them see patience, not pride. Let them see that you do not have to raise your voice to raise the standard." Ethan's tone softened. "You did more than fix an engine. You reminded us that integrity still has a place in business." Malik folded his arms, feeling the warmth of the sunlight on his skin. "Integrity never left," he said. "People just stopped listening for it." Naomi joined them outside, wiping her hands on a rag. "You really think the world will change?" she asked. Malik smiled. "It already is. Every person who leaves this shop carries a piece of that change with them." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of oil, metal, and evening rain. It rustled the banner above the door, the words, "Second Chance Engineering," glowing faintly in the fading light. Malik turned back to the camera that had been quietly recording from across the lot. He looked straight into the lens, his voice steady, his eyes unwavering. "I did not raise my voice," he said. "I raised the standard." The screen faded to black, leaving only the sound of an engine starting somewhere in the distance. A single, perfect rhythm that carried the heartbeat of every lesson he had ever taught. The final line appeared across the darkness. "Expertise does not need permission to exist."